Dumelan, it's Ibinki. Welcome to another episode of Mobile Schools Podcast. Remember, it's simple. Do not like, do not subscribe, do not share. Nobody gives up. Yup. Happy Youth Month to South Africans out there. Anyone under the age of 35 who wants to work, doesn't have a job, has given up on looking for a job, just want you to know that you are not alone. It was recently announced that there's a 33% unemployment in South Africa. So that's people who are not employed, people who've given up. That's 32% of the youth that's unemployed. And to welcome the month with such news is just proof that things are really, really bad, and there's nobody who's gonna help, especially from the ANC. They really don't know what they're doing, and we keep thinking they do, but they don't. We keep voting for them, which is also our fault. At some point, we need to realize if somebody keeps lying, keeps chowing money that should go to schools, keep chowing money that should go to 24-hour clinics, keeps chowing money that could build roads, also creating employment, and they don't do that, it's our fault if we keep voting for them. Maybe we're not as tough as we think we are as South Africans. Like, oh, let's burn this place out. Like, I mean, how do we explain the fact that we have mayors in our communities who have children that drive cars that are over 1 million and we just let it go? That's your money the guy is driving. That's the money that was supposed to fix potholes. That's the money that's supposed to build primary schools. That's the money that should build high schools with computers and resources. And then you have people like going to all that to that private school with a fucking board that says, "Oh, let our children have their hair the way they want." Shut the fuck up with those Champaign problems. We don't care about your issues with rich people. Like, we don't care. We don't care. All the rich parents, black parents, who move their children from public schools, especially if you work for the government, you should shut the fuck up. We are not going to fight for you when they tell your kid to cut their hair. It's a private school. That's something else we need to understand as black people. This thing of we need things to go our way, even in places that are not for us. The reason there's this rise of private schools is the reason we started mobile schools 7-8 years ago, when all these white racist parents was trying to move their kids from public schools because there were more black kids. We realized, like, why are people paying so much money when we can just put all that information on phones? And that's how we started mobile schools. And 8 years later, we still have people complaining about, oh, private schools won't let our kids come in with their natural hair. Private school, it's still under the government in terms of what they could teach, and they are not allowed to say no black children, so they have to accept children from politicians who can afford all those amounts. And also you need to investigate if there's white people who pay those amounts. Maybe those amounts are just for black people, but that's a topic for another day. And then, as if that's not enough, we're dealing with rich black people complaining about their children's hair, and these are people who work for the government. And then you have somebody like Helen Zille. As much as you hate Helen Zille, her tweet was weird, and I was like, what the fuck is wrong with this old woman? I hate this woman. What the hell does she mean that there are more schools with black teachers? And Helen Zille is like a super smart racist, so she can say like the racist shit without saying the racist shit. But then if you read it a lot of times, which is like 3 times because I hate reading her shit, you're like, hey, she's onto something here. So Helen Zille released like a tweet saying, oh, there are more black schools with black teachers. But what she was trying to say was that, hey, just take your fucking kids to black schools so they can have their dreadlocks, so they can do whatever they want. But if they go to a private school, predominantly white, there are certain rules. Dreadlocks is things we don't want. And we still say, fuck you, Helen Zille, that's not for you to decide. In Africa, no black kid should be told about hair. They can come into the school in and out however they want. But what she's right about is that the ANC has had 25 years to fix schools. There's absolutely no reason for any parent to pay more than 5,000 rands a month for school. It's education, it's information, it's not protected, it's not patent. So why are we taking our kids there? Because they have computers. We have a lot of black private schools that are mini private schools, and they're not working as much because according to them, black parents don't pay yearly. They always go behind. They end up owing the school because they miss payments. And that's true. We all know our middle class is bullshit. If you don't believe that our middle class is bullshit, how many people do you know out of the people you know that call themselves middle class can go without their salary for like 6 months? If you know a middle class person who gets paid 20,000 and they call them middle class, or they are left with 20,000 after payday, how many of them do you know who can go without that money coming in for 6 months and still be able to pay their rent and school? And they will get destroyed. We're not even talking about the money they send home, just them and their lifestyle. They will never survive. And that's why I think the middle class is bullshit. If you are middle class, you should be able to work. And then if you don't work for a year, you don't have to worry about rent, food, your car. That's being middle class. That's being comfortable. The other shit that they're telling us about is nonsense. Especially considering we still have to deal with white people that are not qualified being your bosses. We still have to deal with white people still getting paid more, even the ones that are your juniors. We still have to deal with that shit. It's still not an excuse for what black companies do. Let's not act like we also don't have black companies that exploit other black people and we can say, yeah, but it's better, it's your people. It's not better. You're exploiting people. Exploitation is exploitation. But going back to Helen Ziller and your point about how the ANC should have done something by now, it's very ignorant. We've been saying Helen Ziller is ignorant, but a lot of fucking organizations that deal with race in South Africa really don't look into it as much, and also they hire black people who vote for DA and they think we're all united. But Helen Ziller, here's what you need to understand about black people taking their children to white schools. First of all, if during apartheid black children were allowed to go to white school, it would have been done already back then. And for you to say, oh, they have 25 years to have fixed it, that's not enough, especially when the economy is in the hands of white people. Do you honestly think black parents from Soweto want to move their kids there, put them in fucking taxis overloaded, drop them at school, having them to wake up at 6 while kids in the suburbs are waking up 30 minutes before class starts? Do you think black parents want that? No, but we get it. The whole thing is a systematic racist institution. The whole education system in South Africa favors the rich. So if you don't take your kids to like the fancy primary school and the secondary schools, by the time they get to university, they're going to struggle. But if you do take them to those schools, by the time they go to university, they even get a nudge like, oh, here's a black person that went to that fancy white school. Let's bring them in. We don't have to worry about having to deal with their failures and then have to exclude them and then have them protest. They're smart enough. They've been through the system. And then there's a situation like, you're done with your degree. Where are you going to work? Oh, you went to this university. You went to this. And university is the one place where people link up and they talk. Like also, if you look at HR managers, they are more likely to hire people from University of Pretoria, University of the Witwatersrand, University of Cape Town. So you already know that a lot of children and students want to go to those universities because they know that after they complete their degree, it's not the same if you are from University of Venda, if you are from UNISA, if you're from UJ. So you need to have to carry that big pat on the back that, yeah, I graduated from this university, which is also bullshit, but it is what it is. Yes, so that was the topic for today and this week. I just wanted to touch on the issue of black parents taking their kids to white schools and having to deal with issues like hair, and the unemployment rate in Youth Month. June 16th is South Africa's Youth Day. We'll do a podcast about that and how we've just decided as black people to just it on the struggles of the people who came before us. In closing, I'd like to talk about cybersecurity. When it comes to cybersecurity, we need to be careful. I mean, at the same time, I think as South Africa, we should be grateful we're not as advanced, because I don't know what we would fucking do if we had to face what a lot of developed countries are facing in terms of ransomware. Like, there's one that just happened, JBS was hacked, which is a meat processing company. But you realize, like, today's war will not be fought with like weapons, but it will be fought with information. And that's why it's very important that the South African government starts working on its own private internet. Actually, the whole continent of Africa should do that. A lot of countries are already doing it. It's called the Splinternet. We've done a video about it. But we need to start focusing on education and change our mindset when it comes to educating people. Like, if you look at the 33% unemployment in the youth, how many of those are graduates? But then the question becomes, how many of those are graduates of degrees that are fucking useless? That's another thing we need to stop doing. We need to stop filling all those fucking flats in Braamfontein, all those classes in Wits to learn sociology, to learn about Marx, to learn about like nonsense. We have like doctorates who are learning about philosophy. Doctor in philosophy, what type of nonsense is that? You just need a year to learn about philosophy and get into the science, technology, engineering, mathematics. That's how we're going to get out of this poverty. That's how we're going to start accumulating enough information to start controlling the wealth of this country. We're not going to do it with emotions. Karl Marx, fuck out of here, man. With that said, Happy Youth Month. Awela.